The thing about the churned-up life, I don't know if any of you guys heard yesterday, I asked the class that and everyone stared at me. I'm like, oh, come on, someone has to know what that word means. It's right there, and if you didn't know it, you can't understand this quote without understanding what the word churned means. So I imagine everybody looked it up, right? Everyone just stared at me. So we didn't even go over the quote yesterday, because you have to know what that word means. To churn up is it's not just to move around. It's if you're working on soil and you start to do this action where you turn it over, you work it till it turns over and it gets all fresh. That's churning. Or you can think of it even like stirring. If you're stirring like buttermilk or whatever, you're churning buttermilk, you're churning butter. It's because you unsettle it to make it into something else. You unsettle it in order to make it into something else, something better. You churn the soil to make the soil richer. You churn the buttermilk to make whatever the hell you make with buttermilk butter. I don't know. You churn the fat so you can make butter. That's what it is. So when she's talking about churning things up, it isn't just to go over and rattle someone's monkey cage just to see what happens. It isn't to churn you up just to watch you dance. It's churning somebody. It's churning over things so that you can discover what's beneath the surface, so that you can make it into something better. This goes right back to our first series of articles last semester. We're talking about early childhood trauma and how to overcome trauma and the value of trauma. All of these things is that you can go into your past, and you have to churn up your past. You have to think about difficult things in order to make the future better. Because the things that are holding you back in the present are going to hold you back in the future unless you can deal with them. For example, when we think about things that are embarrassing to us, some people, it's impossible to embarrass them. Because to be embarrassed, you have to care deeply, well, a couple things. You either have to care deeply about what other people think, which most people do, let's be honest, and there's good reasons for caring what other people think, because we live socially. And a lot of the opportunities that we're going to have in life are going to be dependent on the people we interact with on a daily basis. So being liked is very helpful. It's one of the reasons that when you do these, I told you about the Big 5 personality test. I hope some of you took it. But people who score very high on extroversion tend to do better in life. People who are introverted, they score very low on extroversion. They tend to not do as well in life. Extroverts do better. Why? Well, because you get to know more people. You get to know more people, that means you get more opportunities. People like you, they think of you, and then they give you opportunities. If you're introverted, you may be talented as hell. But if people don't know it, or if you haven't given people a reason to remember you, to think about you, when these opportunities come up, you won't be the person that they think about. So to be an introvert, you need to be exceptionally talented. It's, life. If you're an introvert, you're playing life on hard mode. Believe me, this is something I know about. I'm an extreme introvert by nature. I'm also very shy. Getting up and doing this every day is exceedingly difficult to do. It's either this or work in a cubicle, right? So we do the things that we have to, we do things that we have to in order to create the life that we want it to be. In other words, if you're an introvert, that's fine, but you can still act like an extrovert because it's useful in certain ways. But to figure out why you are that way, you need to go into the past, churn it up, and find out what's holding you back. Because if there's something in your background that's causing you to be, let's say, introverted, perhaps it's something that you can deal with. Perhaps it's something that you can deal with. If there's something in your past that's causing you to be embarrassed, maybe there's something down there that's causing you to care a great deal about the opinions of others. Also, by the way, something very important, if you're somebody who's very concerned about being embarrassed, there's probably also something in your background that's causing you to make it very difficult for you to laugh at yourself. In other words, you take yourself too seriously. And yeah, I do use that word in there too. It's important to take yourself seriously. But you can't take yourself too seriously. Because if you take yourself too seriously, well, then you're fragile. And you're easily shattered. You're easily broken. It's people who have enormous egos, it just takes a few words to embarrass them and make them feel terrible about themselves, and then to get them to to overreact in certain ways. And people who are fragile are very easy to manipulate, you're going to find. But if you're someone who can laugh at yourself, well, first off, it's good to laugh at yourself because you'll never run out of material to laugh at. Believe that. You'll constantly find yourself doing silly things. And you'll notice that there's a difference when you do something silly between saying like, oh my God, that's so stupid. Oh my God, so embarrassing. Oh no. And then running away and being able to do something stupid or something silly and go, oh my God, that's so silly. And then move forward anyway. The first one, you're escaping life. The second one, you're still indulging in it. And then that still, it keeps you in the place where you need to be to do something useful for yourself, for society, whatever you deem to be useful, meaningful life. So, we live trapped between these things. A churned up and examines past and a future that awaits that work. In other words, if we can do that work of examining ourselves, churning it up, figuring ourselves out, to put it as the Oracle of Delphi said, to know yourself, if you can get to the point of knowing yourself, well then there's a future that's waiting for you that is better than you can possibly imagine. And I mean that literally. That's not a poster you know on the wall. It's something that you can't even imagine because we are where we are right now. It's difficult for a well frog to know what's outside the well. It's difficult for a worm to know what's above the earth because we're trapped. I shouldn't say trapped. We're limited by the spaces that we inhabit. And so if you can start to imagine yourself beyond those spaces, then you can imagine where you could possibly be. But that's difficult to imagine. It's actually, ironically enough, easier to get there than it is to imagine. But turn up the past. That's what she's saying. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?